Justice Department racing to finish its investigation of Hunter Biden. Numerous news organizations saying a decision is now very close, and the top Republican on the House Oversight Committee thinks charges are coming.
I think the Department of Justice is at the point they're going to have to do something to Hunter very soon. But once they do it, Maria, that's not going to slow down our investigation.
Hunter Biden and his company brought in around $11 million between 2013 and 2018, working as an attorney serving on the board of Ukrainian energy company Burisma as part of a joint venture with a Chinese tycoon that apparently went nowhere. More than half of that $11 million came from two deals with Chinese business interests, including CEFC China Energy, a massive oil and gas company that had ties to the Chinese Communist Party. Hunter also owed more than $2 million in back taxes to the IRS, but repaid it with the help of Hollywood attorney Kevin Morris. But the question there will be, did that rise to the level of criminality? But that's not all. New York Times reports Hunter Biden is under investigation for tax evasion, potentially violating the Foreign Agents Registration Act for failing to disclose to the government that he was lobbying for a foreign client. Influence peddling could involve using his dad's name, position. That could certainly be the most perilous politically. The U.S. Attorney's Office working overtime to get this done because Justice Department guidelines seek to avoid bringing cases within 60 days of an election to avoid giving an advantage or disadvantage to any candidate. That would mean September 9th would be the cutoff, even though President Biden isn't on the ballot this year. The U.S. attorney investigating the case, David Weiss, was appointed by former President Trump. He was one of several U.S. attorneys kept in the position by the Biden administration, specifically because they were overseeing investigations that were politically sensitive. Hunter Biden has denied any wrongdoing, and let's be clear, President Biden has allowed this investigation to continue. We've seen many in the left-leaning media downplay the investigation, and the right-leaning media overstate it. The reality is that it's the president's son. It's a criminal investigation, and it's definitely newsworthy. But since January 1st, Newsmax has made over 2,000 references to Hunter Biden, and Fox News has made more than 2,400 references. And in that same period, CNN has mentioned Hunter Biden 92 times, MSNBC 207. But for some of the limited left-leaning coverage, it's been about the right-leaning media covering it too much.
We count on Fox News returning to rolling primetime coverage of congressional hearings of pressing matters like Hunter Biden and the 2020 election, which, of course, Republicans have already made clear they will launch if they win the House and or Senate in November.
And from the right, much of the coverage has been about how the left is not covering it enough.
Networks didn't cover this story almost at all. I think there was one mention on one network. They have far more cable viewers as a conglomerate than, you know, than obviously us as a group. But why would they not cover this?
Look, no matter which side of the aisle you fall on, the president's son is being investigated for possible felonies and could face prison time. It's a real story with real implications. But at this point, I think we still don't know what's going to happen next. Joining me now is New York Times reporter Ken Vogel, who's been following the Hunter and Biden investigation for years. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Appreciate it. All right, so what do we know, or what do you know, based on your reporting, about what this U.S. attorney is focusing on here in the Hunter Biden investigation?
Well, you laid it out pretty well in the intro there, Dan. It does seem to be honing in on tax matters. At various points, the investigation has looked at possible violations of the Foreign Agents Registration Act related to Hunter Biden's work on behalf of foreign interests, most notably the Ukrainian energy company Burisma. But our understanding is that Hunter Biden's lawyers, in talks with the Justice Department and the prosecutors in Delaware and the U.S. Attorney's Office there, have been asked a bunch of questions recently. I say recently, and as recently as the end of May was the last that we we were aware of interactions between them, and those questions have been focused on tax matters. So notable, perhaps, that one of the entities with which he worked on this Burisma case, a Democratic PR and lobbying firm called Blue Star Strategies, which was under investigation, did not get charged. And their lawyers announced that, in fact, they weren't going to be charged, and instead they filed a retroactive registration under this Foreign Agents Registration Act. So that would seem to suggest that maybe the potential FARA charge has either fallen by the wayside or is no longer as much sort of in the running as potential tax charges.
Now, there's been a lot of talk about the U.S. attorney here, David Weiss, who was appointed by President Trump, but ultimately the call would be the Attorney General's, right, Merrick Garland's. I can't imagine a scenario, you tell me, I can't imagine a scenario where David Weiss says, we want charges to be filed, and Merrick Garland overrules him and says it's not going to happen. Now, there are going to be many people who are going to speculate that that's certainly possible. The reason I don't think that it's possible is because it would get out. People would find out, and they would go crazy.
It's a really tough situation for the line prosecutors, the U.S. Attorney in Delaware, and most notably Merrick Garland. No matter what the Justice Department does here, and I see sort of three potential outcomes. One would be charges, possibly criminal, for tax evasion. One would be some kind of settlement that may result in, potentially civil settlement, and one would be that they pass entirely. All three of those are going to get criticized depending on which side takes umbrage with them. If he brings charges, there's going to be a suggestion that they are trying to overcompensate and show that they're really fair regardless, and they're avoiding charges of political favoritism. If he doesn't bring charges, there are going to be complaints about political favoritism. Either way, we're going to see Republicans, certainly if they retake the House in November, really drilling down and focusing on this as a matter of oversight, both of the Hunter Biden and his foreign business itself, as well as of the Justice Department's handling of the situation.
And that is almost a separate issue, which is that Congress can move forward and do its investigation regardless of what the Department of Justice decides to do. Talk to me about this influence peddling, because I think that's of particular interest to conservatives.
Yeah, this would relate to the work that he did on behalf of these foreign interest entities, including Burisma, which were, very much in the purview of what his dad, as vice president, was tasked with overseeing as part of his portfolio in international affairs. And there's always this sort of distinction in lobbying where you have the foreign principals sort of seeing the potential of getting access or kind of currying favor by hiring a given lobbyist. That doesn't necessarily mean that they actually get that and that the lobbyist delivers on that. And talking to folks around Hunter Biden, it was sort of, part of it. He didn't even need to make it part of his pitch. It was just, he was Hunter Biden. Everyone knew what that last name meant, and that was attractive to some foreign clients. Now, we've investigated, what he actually did, and we haven't seen a lot of evidence that he actually sought to use that connection, and in fact may have been under-delivering, and there may have been clients who were frustrated.
What's the criminal, though, part of that, of the influence peddling?
Yeah, I mean, it would relate back to FARA. That, it is legal for you to lobby on behalf of foreign interests, even to lobby your own family, although there may be implications for the family member who's in office. That said, we do not see that. We do not see any indication that there's any investigation focusing on Joe Biden.
Yeah. All right. I don't see how Hunter walks out of this unscathed, either civil. I think you raise a good point, which is the possibility of civil fines or potential criminal charges, but we shall see. We shall see. And that's one of the things, we just don't have the evidence. We don't know exactly what it is they have, which is why on this show we try to be particularly careful in making judgments. Ken Vogel, thank you so much for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
I appreciate it, too.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.